to hear it and still be whole and intact and not harbor resentment, then I can rock with you. Essentially, if you can hear some truth, I can rock with you.
I am an island warrior. Don't you forget, it's true. Yeah, it's true.
All right, so this is an interesting one. Am I a racist? I think it would be relevant, or it is relevant, because there are times, and there have been times, where I put out content that is very direct about what I think about certain groups of people and just things that have happened and are going to happen and are still happening. I think if we want to take it all the way back to the beginning, how I feel about race relations, right? Off top, my answer would be inherently no. What I mean by that is, I can remember a point in time, and especially being a military child, like, you didn't have the option to be a racist. Like, a large part of the time, I sounded like I was from Boston just now. A large part of the time, you were the only melanated person. That was my reality up until I moved to Maryland at the end of 5th grade, going into 6th grade. Like, you got used to being the only brown-skinned person in the class, if not the only, maybe one, at the most two. I think my whole time in Oklahoma going to school on the base, I remember 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other melanated, what you would call so-called black people that I went to school with. There were more, but you know what I mean. So there was a time when, like, my mom always let us, who we were, and you don't do everything everybody else doing, but she wasn't pushing no racial type stuff, not like that, It would only come up when the whole we got to do 2 times more type thing, and not that she ever said that, but there were times when it was evident. And when I look back on it, it was definitely, race had to be a part of some of this stuff, because I was a child in middle school. My mother taught me at home before I could remember being hooked on phonics when we were in Florida, so I had to have been 2 or 3. And that translated well. So by the time I was in 1st grade, I would, like, get perfect grades, but the teachers would complain about me being basically a ringleader and, like, I don't want to say class clown stuff, because I wasn't, like, disrespectful, but we would laugh and trip. And my mother, I remember her vividly being at the school being like, because he's bored. Like, this stuff isn't a challenge to him. So the back and forth with that, I ended up being a 1st grade student, but every Wednesday or so, or Tuesday or something, because Wednesday we left the school, I was in the little talented and gifted, whatever the equivalent was out there. But in 1st grade, once a week I would go to 2nd grade classes. And it didn't last too long, because I was not ready for that, like, just socially, really. And I don't know what else happened. But this trajectory continued up until about 4th grade, and I had a teacher named Miss Terry. And I remember my mother and her going back and forth. Man, that lady was so mean. Like, she was just so hateful. She had something against me. And I want to think that it was maybe like when the discussions were had about me, because everybody went to the same school if you're military, so they would know, like, discussions that were going on whether this child should be skipped up. So I don't know how it happened, but I remember my mother being in the office with this teacher and some other teachers, some superiors, and them going back and forth, and my mother telling her, like, basically there's nothing wrong with him, it's you, like this is what's going, like they were going back and forth about something, but she was basically trying to put me down, saying I wasn't what they were cracking me up to be, basically. So looking back, I realized situations like that could have been like race related. And I'm just giving a rundown of the early moments when I knew that there was a difference. I remember, this is a crazy story. I can't believe I'm about to say this. So I remember back then, like I say, all races of people. So you might have had a girlfriend that was Filipino at the time. You might have had a little white girlfriend, or so-called white girlfriend. You Mexican, I had a Mexican girlfriend. Like, you just liked who you liked at the time. So I remember there was this one female in our class, and it wasn't like we were together or whatever, but you would find groups of people that you would take different routes and walk with home. One day I ended up walking on her route, and she looked at me and she was like, "Why are y'all's lips two different color?" like what? And I remember going home and like looking like, oh, like what it is. Like, I knew what she was saying. Like, why is, so-called black people, why is it like that? That was one moment. Well, I'm getting deep into this. Y'all better appreciate this. And I'll never forget this particular moment. I had a homeboy, a friend, or a neighbor. His name was Nathan. He had a sister named Lindsay, right? And this was real early on, like elementary school. Basically, me and Nathan were real cool, right? So Lindsay had a crush on me and I had a crush on Lindsay. Let's just say that. And we would flirt, do whatever. And I think, even back then, the man thing to do is just to be like, what's up? Like, you sending signals. And at the time, remember, you don't make a difference in race. It's just who you like, whatever. So I remember this like it was yesterday. Because Nathan and would come over my house to play basketball or play video games. That's just how it was on the base. Like, we just did that at each other's houses. They had a trampoline, so we would always go in their backyard, jump on the trampoline. So I remember this one day we was in the backyard of the trampoline. This is when it hit me, but after I basically was like, well, what's up? She basically told a friend, and the friend came, or however it happened, came to me and told me that she really likes me and she would want to be my girlfriend, but she doesn't know what her parents would say. So in previous videos, I told you how I reacted to like news and hearing my mother pass away, of kind of like stoic, like. But when I heard that, my whole being shifted, because I didn't show it now. I didn't show it till later, because I'm gonna get to that. But my whole being shifted, and that's when I began to like pay attention, I guess, because I couldn't understand even then how it was cool for your brother to sleep at my house, I don't even think I ever slept. Hey, I never slept at their house, but they slept at my house. But your brother would be at my house, I'll be at your house to whatever extent. And it's all gravy. But when that thought comes to mind, your parents, like what type of parents? So what is this really? Like, I was able to think that then. So I played it cool the whole time. We ended up in their backyard later. But y'all, I ain't gonna lie, like, the thing that hit me so deep, that was my first point of like realization. Like, I ended up like just walking out the backyard. Like, when them boy walked in, I just walked out, like, and I shedded a few tears. And that's when, Nathan and them like, yo, what's up? Like, what's going on? Like, and I don't know if I let them know or not, but it was things like that, like my early, like, welcome to the real world, I guess, moments of racism. And up until that point, like, we moved off the base and came to Maryland, Prince George's County. And I don't know if going to school on the base is like, I don't know if that's considered private school, but it definitely ain't all the way public, because yes it was, because kids that lived off the base came too. Well, anyway, I know I was in public school when I got to Maryland. I know that Like it was all so-called black people, all your own people. So that was a culture shock to me in that regard. It's not that I didn't know my people, but we went to school with who we went to school. We had the experience we had. So it was like 3-4 years of just seeing your people. Like it was reversed. Like whereas you were used to being the only one or two or a few, now there was only one, two, or a few of any other type of race at the school I was going to then. And then that came to St. John's. And at that time, it was just for us, by us, all us there. So I went an extensive amount of time just being cultured and around my people again. And it wasn't until, you leave out for school and you get into the real world that you're reintroduced to other races of people on a large scale. And as a thinker, it all started with and I know I'm gonna get there, but as a thinker, when I started really thinking about race and the differences and all of that, when I found out that there were herbs that actually cure cancer, but my mother took the chemo radiation route, and then I look at who leads the medical fields, whose philosophies we follow, who's predominantly in these positions, it just made me start thinking, this system is for y'all. And, we're people of, the earth. So then that divide of losing my mother and realizing there were things out here to save her, but we took the word of these people. We basically let y'all experiment on her. Kill her. That began everything. So I find it, I don't think I can be racist either, because whereas you see the Jewish people and they hold on so dearly to the things that happen to them, and you better not treat them bad because remember their struggle and they're being compensated by that, and you got things like 9/11 and never forget and all of that. And my daughter's going ham right now, but don't forget 9/11. Don't forget Pearl Harbor. Don't forget our vet. Don't forget none of this stuff. But when it came to even coming up in school, y'all, my other viewers or races of people, if you can, if you can, put yourself in a position where there's little to no representation on the grand scale outside of my home, where you saw for us, by us all day. But when corporate and all this stuff that we got to tailor ourselves to fit in, there's little to no representation, right? When you go to school, they're telling you everything about yourself is, you didn't know nothing, you were a slave, you're dumb, we beat you, we treated you like this, you allowed it, you accepted it, by the way. And all of our people are responsible for everything. So that, imagine going through that and actually being in a state where you thought that's what you went along with it. But then when you hit the real world and you're a thinker, it's how all right, yeah, so the baby just couldn't wait. She had to get her point across. So I think I was saying, how is it that we have little to no representation? We're being forced to hear that the only thing we've ever amounted to was begging and pleading and trying to get along with what's right in society, because it obviously ain't us. And then when you get out here in the real world, now, I guess it's a little different because my pride was amplified with my people. In my world, I saw my people doing for themselves. My grandfather ran his own business. Granted, he did retire, but all I knew was him doing for himself. Close-knit, all I see is my people. And then I'm coming to this real world and you want me to change even how I may say certain things or how my people may, and that's how we are qualified to make a living? Nah. So how could we know the things we know? It's almost the fact that we don't talk about race relations, and it's always something that we view as kind of taboo. It's disingenuous. It's sinister. Because here it is, one way or another, a system being in place that's like miseducating people. Now, if this was the truth, it'd be one thing. But it's not the truth. It's fabricated. It's manipulated in order to subconsciously enslave people. Age of information. If this is the truth, and even if it's not being done as much now, it has been done long enough for this version of a system to exist where I see no representation. And I'm supposed to get along fine, accepting this, knowing that, man, I'm calling it unedited, but I'm going to have to cut some of them parts out, man. Lord. So, trying to recall my train of thought. Yeah, how could we know the things we know and everything, all the ill-gotten gains is what's being dangled in front of our face, as in we fall short of and we have to be this way to do. But you only got that because of brutal measures, let's say that. How is it fitting for you then to tell people that they should not talk about the deeds of your ancestors that have you in position of where you are today? And it still goes on today. This game, this system has been created masterfully and is still being upheld. Just like cell phones and cars get better, the system got better. And then they want us to pretend like it's not so. So, you listen to my music, you will hear me say cracker. You will hear me say colonizer. You will hear me call your skin pale. And what I balance that with is, by the same measure, pale-skinned people can be in the audience applauding, supporting, kill this nigga, F this B. They're actually raving to that. So if I can hear nigga, bitch, ho, ho, over and over in music, and that's what we celebrate, why can't you hear cracker, colonizer, beast? Why can't you hear those things? It's balance. Another thing that I feel about that is, if I say this cracker did this colonizer did that, and you happen to be in pale skin and you have a reaction to it, how does the saying go? A dog is gonna holler if he's hit, essentially, you know? Because you could be in a pale skin suit and hear me say that and be like, damn right, that's the truth, you know? So I refuse to live a life, no matter who's been taken out before me, no matter who fell short before me. I refuse to live a life silence, not telling it how it is for the sake of someone else's game to continue. And no, you may not be outwardly or actively doing things to people of other racial groups currently, but again, the whole system was put in place by your ancestors. Even if you migrated over here, you are getting resources on a land that isn't yours, with the people who at the very least are responsible for constructing it, giving it the life, the flavor, the ideas, because even patent services exist where we know for a fact that all the inventions of slaves were just claimed by, yeah, I guess my daughter got something to say too, man. My bad on that. But yeah, so I guess I was just That's just the main point. We can't live in a racist society where it's like, all right, we're not going to talk about that, but the suffering still continues on a large scale or overall scale. The fight still continues. We're still overcoming. Now, we need to overcome feeling like we need to overcome anything. What's also funny to me about race relations is if you don't like the people who are different from you, why don't you just get away from them? Why wouldn't you just give them some land to do their own thing and then see what happens? If we fail, then okay, all your suspicions were confirmed. Like, why can't we just live away from y'all until we figure out our own thing? Because it's not really away from y'all because we have hatred in our hearts. To the contrary, like, we've been trying to love everybody, even to the detriment of ourselves. We got so much hate for ourselves and each other. So, no, I'm not a racist, but you will hear me talk about things regarding race, theorizing, telling it how it is, reciting history, linking prophecy, to tell the truth about what's happened, what's happening, and what's going to happen. That's the most powerful position to be in because, honestly, we don't care on a large scale any longer to fit the standard of essentially all oppressors and all of his allies. Like, that day is over. So over is the day that we'll be scared to call it how it is. That's if you're the type of person, going back to the true nature, if you're the type of person that can withstand that, to hear it and still be whole and intact and not harbor resentment, then I can rock with you. Essentially, if you can hear some truth, I can rock with you. But if you're offended at anything that might come in the future, because we are headed into the colonizer wave, and we're going to talk about the gentrification, we're going to talk about the history, and we're going to talk about the penalty, for this system existing. A lot of people like to say they can't pay for their ancestors' deeds, but these are the same people who taught and would say this is a Christian nation which is backed by the Bible, but the Bible doesn't say that. The Bible don't say that you're not going to pay for your ancestors' deeds. So how is it that we're pro-Bible, pro-Christian? We're supposed to be, allegedly, but all of the things like we're all the same and like all of the things that are convenient have been altered. I'll say that. It's just a lot that we got to unpack. That's where I am currently. If you're not a melanated person, you see this video, I'd like to know how you feel about what I'm saying. Because it really is sick. It's sick. It's sick how y'all can expect everybody else get they get back, they pay back. Everybody else is, don't forget, Stop Asian Hate just pops up real fast, gets funded, and they dip out. I mean, even down to the fact that we know now that we're not all from Africa. We know now that this is our land and all of that. So y'all been running a lot of game, man, telling a lot of stuff just to look in our face and say that racism doesn't exist and I'm not racist. You may not be, but you inherited a bunch of lies, man. So the truth will set you free, just like the truth has set us free. So the only shot potential, which... Imagine that. Imagine them telling the truth and surrendering their positions and false titles. Like, imagine that. That's what it would take to save the future. Honestly. just telling it how it is. To save the future, the throne would have to be renounced, the truth will have to be told, a certain humbleness would have to come forth. But as far as I can see it, I don't think that's going to happen. So, to any and all, how y'all feel? Are you racist? A lot of people would just say no, but what does it really mean to be racist? People have their definitions. Like, you can't be racist if you don't have any real power to cut off somebody's life. I've heard that before. But what does racist really mean? Does it mean do you put your people first or value your people? Or what's the extent? What does it really mean? Because everybody loves their people. But it seems like when my people do it, it's a problem. What is it about us that racism had to exist and still phantomly exists now? Shit, I'm asking all the questions, and I was asked the question, am I racist? Like, the answer is no, but there's so much to be talked about, and I'm gonna talk about it. If you can respect it, then cool. We cool. It ain't hate. It's just questions that need to be answered, things that need to be discussed. So I think survey would say that most of my people just aren't, we're not racist. We just want to get along with everybody around us but us, while everybody else has it in reverse. And we seem to be the object of scorn. Not to say that other races may not feel it, but we definitely are the ones shouldering this thing, have shouldered this thing, but it's the brunt end of every joke. But not no more. And that's because there's a fearlessness, there's a knowing now, there's a complete picture, and we really can see who we are and who everyone else is.
My every battle's won and the table said it's true. Yeah, it's true. Oh, yeah.